Hello and welcome to Chocolate Good Game and Match Preview of Newcastle United against West Ham United, two teams in contention for the European places in the Premier League as we reach the business end of this season. Gonzo, would you like to kick us off with your thoughts on the Geordies, please?
Yeah, I mean, interesting season for them, obviously out of Europe early, and a situation where I think their league form took a dip. Actually, I think at the start of the season, I looked, this may be my memory playing tricks on me. I think very early in the season, I sort of looked at them and I thought, oh, maybe they can do this European thing and sustain their league form as well. And then it became apparent that obviously wasn't going to be the case. I think they've been beset by a lot of injury, but then there was certainly some external pressure, I think, put on by the media that Eddie Howe's job might be in peril. To be fair to the Newcastle fans, they rejected it because I actually did a video about it. It wasn't me making up the rumours about Eddie Howe, obviously, but just responding to what the press had said, and then the press had linked us with Eddie Howe as a replacement for David Moyes, and obviously the Newcastle fans didn't respond well to that. So, like, how dare you and that sort of thing. But it was only responding to what was going on in the press.
You do not have a good relationship with Newcastle fans on YouTube.
It's a shame. My nan's a Geordie. My great uncle my great uncle built a bloody Metro Centre. There you go. So yeah, I used to go to Whitney Bay as a kid, get thrown into freezing cold bloody sea. So I think I'm part Geordie myself, but yeah, so I don't know. But yeah, so I think they very much rallied round behind Eddie Howe and said, no, this is not the case. And I think their form's definitely picked up, Geo. But aside from all that, I do wonder what the owners of Newcastle must be thinking of all this FFP stuff, because I think they can't do anything now. They just can't. The only way forward, it seems to me, is to try and is to cheat. But there are almost people are going to have to cheat, like Man City, allegedly, because the rules are just so draconian. It's, as I've said, it's an ambition killer. FFP, profit and sustainability. I even hate the word profit. Football clubs shouldn't be making a profit. Let's be fair on that. And I do have a level of sympathy for Newcastle. And I'll tell you why, because if it's going to kill Newcastle's ambition, it's going to kill our ambition and everybody else. And I just think that this sort of ring fence there to stop anyone else breaking into the top 6 or 7 or whatever you want to call it. So I do wonder what, technically, I think the Saudi investment fund or whatever it's called is probably the most affluent and the richest investment fund in the world. So they are technically probably the richest football club in the world. But honestly, they cannot spend their money at all. It's like being a millionaire and the only shop you've got is Lidl around the corner. So I think they're, as a club, I think they're a little bit stuck.
Yeah, richest owners, but not the richest football club, essentially, because they're not allowed to become the richest football club. That left a bad taste in my mouth when they first came in at Newcastle United, and very quickly there was this new rule put in place in Premier League, which is regarding owners using other companies to sponsor their football team, and it was like put in place to almost just prevent them sponsoring. Now, hang on a minute, this is convenient, isn't it? When all this has been going on and all these big teams, original 6, have their big lucrative contracts elsewhere, and the Manchester City and the Etihad one in particular. And then when a club not them tries to do it, it's like, oh, we'll quickly put barriers in place. We'll act overnight to stop you from getting involved in that closed shop. So they've been mugged off a little bit by the Premier League, but I do think they're on a sound footing, and I do think they're looking up rather than backwards. And I think if you were a Newcastle fan for quite some time now, I would imagine approaching a new season, there's been a fear of relegation under Rafa, under Steve Bruce. But now I'd imagine going into next season, coming into this one, there's no fear anymore. We're not going to get relegated this season. We're now going to be challenging for European spots. So whilst they perhaps are restricted in from going into the Champions League places or challenging for the title without getting a lot right off the pitch, I think they have moved up quite a few levels, which is we're now a top, worst case scenario, we're a top 10. That's a bad season now where we finished 9th or 10. A bit like what Chelsea are doing at the minute. That's a bad season for Chelsea. Yeah, they're still nowhere near relegation, right? They're just lingering in mid-table, and that's deemed a really bad season for them. So their standards have risen, and I think they'll easily maintain those ones. This season completely hindered with injuries. I don't think I've seen Newcastle field their strongest 11 this season. I mean, it's difficult. Maybe at the very start when Tonali wasn't suspended and Nick Pope was available and Joelinton and Bruno, Isak, but bar a handful of games at the start of the season, there's been Tonali's been suspended for ages. Even taking him away, there's been big injuries at that football club. Whether it is Pope at the minute, Trippier's out, Livramento twisted his ankle against Chelsea. Joelinton's out for a while. Now they've just discovered Botman's out until later on in 2024. So there's just constant injury problems. There are two big summer signings, Tonali and Barnes. How's barely been able to use either of them. I guess the advantage is Anthony Gordon looks like he's really settled in now and become the player that they thought they were buying. Eddie Howe thought he was buying. And I think there was a lot of people, understandably, a bit like, I think you've overpaid there for Anthony Gordon. He took a little while to settle in, but now you're seeing why they paid big money for him. And I think they've done quite well, actually, and to juggle European football, injuries, and what is a competitive Premier League. And Newcastle had a bit of catching up to do. I think they almost fast-tracked it a little bit and possibly overachieved last season. But I guess that's what I want to discuss now, Gonzo, that talk around Eddie Howe. Now, forget what Newcastle fans have said to you. You as a neutral, what's your opinion on Eddie Howe? Is he still the right manager for Newcastle going into next season, or do you think they should be looking to upgrade him?
Do you know what? I am less reluctant than ever because of David Moyes and what people say about us to tell another club what manager they should or shouldn't be having. You're not
doing that. You're not doing that. I'm not asking you to tell you. I'm asking you, what do you think as a neutral they should do? And that's just where I don't mind pundits saying, I think this is what West Ham should do. But I don't like it when pundits say this is what you're allowed to think or not think. Be careful. That's the stuff that I don't like.
I love Eddie Howe. I've got to say, Eddie Howe is probably, as a person, my favourite manager. He took a lot of sting out of that club. There was a lot of eyes and a lot of pressure on that club because of the takeover. You'll not convince me otherwise. There was an element of sports washing with, and this is what I mean. That unfortunately, they're not going to be able to fully do that because Newcastle is not going to be able to become even PSG or what the Qataris did. So it's not going to be able to yield, if they can't spend money, that international influence, which is what they wanted. And then I think Staveley I think Staveley shouldn't talk, quite frankly. I mean, I think the stuff she was coming out with, all the Roman Abramovich stuff, when everything was happening over there, you just think, keep your, we do on Hammers Chat, we don't discuss politics. But actually, I feel sorry for Roman Abramovich. And she says a lot of stuff. And I think then you've got this guy, this figurehead at the club, who is, in Eddie Howe, who's the most reasonable, placid, likable man, who I think I really like the fact that he can either go for it and play attacking football, and his ethos is really great, or he can be a bit tight, he can be a bit stingy, and he can change it up. I like that. I think that's important, actually, when you're a club. I think maybe if you're Man City, you can just go attacking all the time. I think tactically he's pretty damn good. I think he can keep it tight. I think he'd go on the counter attack, go on the attack. But I think as a figurehead for the club, I like what he's done. He went all around Europe and spent time in different academies and spent time with different coaches, learning his craft. There's a humility about that. I like that. That's saying I know nothing, not I know it all. And so he's like a sponge for information. I think he's really loyal to his coaching staff. I think I'd be proud. I think, and I'm sure they are proud. I know that for a fact. I think Newcastle fans be rightly to be proud that he's their manager. And I think if I was a Newcastle fan, I would also want him retained. And you've just mentioned all that injury stuff. That's just rotten luck. And I think had they have been able to play many of these players, they'd probably be higher than where they were. And if they are higher than where they were, then maybe there'd be no worries anyway. I think the other thing that I'd say is what David Moyes has proved very, very good at is juggling European football and Premier League football. So I would imagine that is a question mark that hangs over Eddie Howe. Can you do that? Can you be top 10 and can you get through to the latter rounds in European competition? That being said, Champions League and not Conference League, obviously, but that's a tricky thing to balance, I think, for a manager.
I think he's done fantastic so far. Whether he's the right man going forward, I'm not too sure about, truth be told, because some of the problems, the injuries, there is bad luck there, but I do think it's also self-inflicted a little bit with Eddie Howe's lack of rotation, and they play with high intensity, and that's going to have an impact on the players' well-being. Sure. It's going to add up. So when you get a large amount of injuries to a lot of your players, there's got to be something there. It can't just be down to the medical team or the fact you're buying injury-prone players, and that should be the case at Newcastle with how it's still coming together, and they've obviously had a bit of disruption with Answorth going to Manchester United, but that's why they're paying big money for big players so that they don't have these issues. So I do think a lot of the issues they've got is self-inflicted by Eddie Howe. Not to say I don't think he's done a good job. I think he was the right manager at the right time to take them away from relegation, get them into the Champions League. I think he's done fantastic, but can he get them back into the Champions League, stay in the Champions League, get them through Champions League? Can you get them up challenging for the title? Because ultimately that will be the aims of the owners at Newcastle. They're not expecting it overnight, but that's what the eventual aim is. Is Eddie Howe that man? I'm not sure, to be honest with you. I'm not convinced. I think he's a good, solid Premier League manager, but is he an elite manager? I'm not 100% sure. If they stuck with him, I get it, but they would decide to twist and try and get a new guy in to take them up another level, I would understand that too. Obviously, we don't know the same as what Newcastle United fans, but from a neutral looking in, I do think some of them are a little bit self-inflicted. And you've got some, every manager has flaws. Every manager does. And I think sometimes you can be guilty of looking at other teams with starry-eyed, misty-eyed, and you ignore the background noise. A bit like what people do West Ham at Moyes, and they go, hey, what's your problem? You're 7. What's your issue? Well, nobody's complaining about that. What we're complaining about is the other stuff.
Yeah.
And I think if you look deep into every manager's reign, I think you can actually see issues. And Eddie Howe, I've got a big question mark over Lewis Hall. What's going on there? They've loaned him from Chelsea. They're going to have to pay 30 million, I think it is, for him in the summer. Yet I've barely seen him. Dan Burn is still utilised at left back ahead of him. And it's like, what's this 30 million pound guy doing? Are you playing him? What's the plans for him? And it's not perfect, but then which manager is? Right then, very quickly, Gonzo, what's a success for Newcastle this season? Obviously, they finished bottom of the Champions League group, went out the FA Cup quarterfinals to Chelsea, so they've only got the league left to play for. Is finishing in Europa League spaces considered a success for Newcastle this season?
No, that's I would imagine that's considered bare minimum. I think Isak was about 70 million, 65, 70 million. Tonali about 70 million.
I think it was a bit more than that, but yes.
Yeah. If you're going to start spending numerous increments of 70 million pounds on players, you need European football. That's the bare minimum. No, top 10 does not cut it. And I understand the mitigation. I understand that's I don't know what the Tonali thing is. It's either unlucky or lack of due diligence. Maybe it surprised them. I don't know. But they're still without him. And I think he's a brilliant player, by the way. I mean, I really, really think that was a cracking signing. When they signed him, I wouldn't have minded him at all with Declan leaving. Don't get me wrong, I'm happy with what we got with Alvarez, really am. But I would. It's got to be Europe. It has to be Europe.
Yeah, I agree. Pleasure, Maya.
Well, I've got to say, there was a period earlier on in the season where Livramento was playing at left back. I thought he was sensational. I mean, you talk about Dan Burn. Look, Dan Burn is a centre back playing out of position, as far as I'm concerned. All right, yeah, okay, and I understand. We'll get to the game at the weekend, and he'll dribble in from left back and score a goal against us, and I'll look like a tit. I understand that, right? But he's a left back, because this is the stuff that happens when I say stuff. But he's not a left back. Saw Livramento. I mean, what a brilliant player. He was better than I thought he was. I remember you raving about him when Southampton got him for Chelsea. I remember doing a video with you. And but he was better than I thought. And I was very, very impressed with him, actually. One thing I've got to say about Eddie Howe as well. He does make players better, and I think he's repaired his reputation as well. To see what he's done with Joe Linton and change his position, to see what he's done with Jacob Murphy, who was obviously one of the Murphy twins at Norwich. Didn't look like they were going anywhere, those players. Good at England under 16 level, and nothing happened. They were much heralded. They'd sort of almost disappeared. I mean, sometimes you look at how Jacob Murphy plays, and he looks brilliant. You think he's got no right to be playing out. I think he was wise in the way that he got Trippier in for his leadership qualities and stuff like that. I think he knows what a team needs. Sorry, I'll just say that. Livramento really good. And Botman, it's funny you say about Botman. Botman is a damn fine player, actually. Really good player. Isak as well, obviously. They got some good players, no doubt about it.
Yeah, they've got like sensational players in every position, really. I say every position. I don't mean right back, left, but I mean defence, midfield, attack with Isak, Bruno, Tonali when he's not suspended. Botman, they've got a real strong spine there when they're all available and fit, and that's the problem, really. They're not all available and fit, but they do have some top players that wouldn't look out of place in sides like Man City, really. Yeah. I think Isak's just an incredible striker. I'm really annoyed. He's one of those players that I really wanted, and when he goes somewhere else, you just get a bit like, when we go get him, it feels obvious, but Newcastle were one that stumped up the cash when they've got him. I think he's just superb. Like I said at the start, I've been very impressed by Anthony Gordon. I was one of the ones that thought he was a good player there, but I didn't think he was that good. So then he struggled when he first went to Newcastle, and then they went and got Harvey Barnes in the summer, and you thought, well, they're both like sort of left wingers, really. What's the plan here? Maybe the plan's to play Gordon on the right. But I think Gordon's really stepped up for Newcastle, actually, and sort of their danger man more often than not when I see them play. But it's been good to see that even though they've got all this money, Lewis Miley break through into the 11, and he's been back at the team, but he's stayed in there for a large period of time. Elliot Anderson's back, someone I know reasonably well because of the Scottish links. Doesn't want to play for Scotland though, but he's back now. Another youngster with possibly a big future at Newcastle United as well. So even though they've got the money, there's still one eye on that academy saying we can't just bin this off completely. We've still got to have a route for them to get into this first team with superstars. Not only can we buy superstars, we've got to be able to grow superstars as well. And I think, I'm not saying Anderson and Miley are that. They might go on to become that, but at least they've got a bit of an opportunity to do so. Right then, from Newcastle to West Ham, we're going to start with a little bit of team news. Mikel Antonio, Mohamed Kudus, both withdrew from international duty over the last fortnight. Both are expected to be okay for the game against Newcastle at James's Park on Saturday afternoon. There's still a big question mark over Maxwell Cornet, although he's been quite loud. He's been
vocal, hasn't he?
Yeah, that's it. He's been quite vocal about his injury and how he wants to succeed at West Ham. But there is no Edson Alvarez. This is the big team news for West Ham. Edson Alvarez is suspended for 3 of the next 4 matches for the Hammers, the next 2 Premier League games against Newcastle and Spurs, and the first leg of the Europa League tie against Bayer Leverkusen. So we are missing our main man in the middle, Gonzo. But before we discuss what we're doing there's a team myself and Gonzo would like to see, not what we think David Moyes will do. It's usually different. But Gonzo, who would you like to see in goal, and what would your defence look like if you were the gaffer on Saturday?
If I was the gaffer on Saturday, I would be playing Areola in goal. I would be playing Vladimir Soufal, Konstantinos Mavropanos. I would also be playing Kurt Zouma, funny enough. And I would also be playing Emerson at left back, and I'm sure he's fit and fine.
Yeah, well, he played against Villa and just didn't last 90, so he should be okay as well. I'm in agreement with all your personnel. However, Kurt Zouma, because obviously the last few weeks we've both been a little bit. Some games we're not wanting to see him play, and then the games he has played or the games we want to see him play, we're still quite hesitant about him. What's the reasoning for Kurt?
I don't trust anyone, really. Maybe I trust Mavropanos more than the others, but I don't trust any of them. And so it's just increments of mistrust, really. And I think I mistrust the others more than I mistrust Kurt Zouma. I mean, it's not ideal. I'd like to tell you, that if they're going to play Isak, and particularly if it's a funny one, Isak, he's a very, very mobile, and he doesn't just stand there, centrally up front, does he? So I'd like to sit here and tell you about how I'm going to deploy Nathan Gerd to use his pace and but I wouldn't believe what I was saying, and I just think a Gerd is a little bit of a liability at the moment. I don't know. I would suspect his mind is not 100% on the job at West Ham as well. By default, I think Zouma is our least worst option.
Yeah, I agree with everything you've just said. I think what I would say is I think Zuma's actually been all right the last couple of games as well. We played Aston Villa, who started the front two of Duran and Watkins, and when that lineup came out, I thought, oh no, because he's going to have a striker, and it happened to be Watkins in the first half that was over his side. on his shoulder for the 90 minutes, and he did okay. Watkins had a half opportunity. It's not like Zuma pocketed him for the whole game. He didn't. But by and large, I thought he was relatively untroubled. But when called upon, I thought he was fine, actually. And as much as I love Isak, I think Ollie Watkins at the minute is the better player. I think Isak will go on to have a better career than Watkins and will become a better striker. But right now, I think Watkins is the in-form striker in the Premier League, not Isak. I still have hesitations over Kurt Zouma playing. However, I agree with you. I think he's the best of a bad bunch, really. So that would be my back five as well. Now we're into the problematic area of the pitch. No Edson Alvarez. And I wish there was a lot of options here. And I think you've got three. I think you've got three realistic options. So what would you like to see?
Well, none of it. But what I would have to see is Phillips and Souček as a defensive two. But for it to work, and it still might not, by the way, it would have to be Paqueta have to be in there and be central as well. There's the other thing is not going to work. To throw Ward-Prowse in there as well as the attacking midfielder, it's not going to work. I don't. I think it made me angry actually to see it. So I don't want to see it. But that's what I would do. This is tough. We're not a one-man team, but we sort of are. So missing Edson Alvarez is a big miss for us. And it's just I don't know what ideas. What ideas have you got? How are you going to deal with it?
Same as you. And again, I mean, for a team at 7th, and we're not in bad nick at the minute form-wise coming into this one. So it sounds like we're sitting here discussing a side that's battling relegation. We're losing every week. And use the phrase "best of a bad pick," but that's what it feels like here. Because our options, as far as I see, you've got three options. You've got option A, which is what you've done, and which is what I would do, which is bring in a horrifically looking Calvin Phillips in alongside Thomas Souček and leave Souček and Paqueta where they've been recently. You bring in Ward-Prowse next to Souček, which I'll discuss in a second, or you pull Paqueta back and bring in another attacking midfielder and almost go gung-ho. But we don't have one. We don't have another attacking midfielder. It's not like we've got Pablo Fornals and you can say, well, maybe we could play Paqueta a bit deeper with Fornals, with Souček almost as like a defensive midfielder. But we ain't got one. And it's not like we have an alternative defensive midfielder. If you want to look to the academy, we might have, we can pull Lewis Orford in for this one. But because of those opportunities in the past, and there's not been loads, but the 3 or 4 games in the past this season, whether it be Bristol City in the FA Cup, the Carabao Cup, where there's been opportunities maybe to give an academy player a little bit of time, and we've not utilised that. I think this is where you come to games like this and you think, if only we'd blooded Orford for 10 minutes or 45 minutes against Bristol City or something, and giving him a few opportunities, he might be a viable option for this one. So it's tough. At some point, Eddie Howe looked at Lewis Miley and said, you know what? I'm going to throw you in. Lewis Miley's played Champions League football this season. I'm pretty sure he's played against Dortmund, Milan, and PSG. Amazing. I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure he's faced all those 3 teams. Lewis Miley, the teenager, right?
Incredible.
We're away to play Newcastle. With the greatest respect to them, we're away to play Newcastle, and it's almost like, no, it's not an option. We cannot play a youngster because of the way that we've gone about our business. Not as in transfer, but in terms of getting these youngsters ready, they're not ready. So I would go what you've done, Souček and Phillips with Paqueta in number 10, because I've seen Souček and James Ward-Prowse, and I don't want to see it again. I do not.
You're right. No, you're right.
I've seen Calvin Phillips. He's had a stinky start to his time at West Ham, but we need him to step up. He's got 3 games as far as I'm concerned. Well, he's got 2 in order to get ready for that Leverkusen one. He's got this one in the Tottenham game. Get ready. This is your opportunity now. But he's a heavy financial investment. We almost can't afford for this not to work financially or points-wise in the Premier League. We need Calvin Phillips to work out. So in he goes next to Souček with Paqueta ahead of him, because I've seen Souček and Ward-Prowse against Olympiacos, and they got beaten comfortably in midfield by Olympiacos. We cannot, we cannot go to Newcastle and have that midfield pairing up against Bruno Guimaraes. They'll get ripped apart. It's just not happening. Moving up to your attack, which I know what you're going to do, and I'm going to do the same, Gonzo.
Well, rightly so. We would have to offer some threat. And for those of you that think, oh, we're not going to use ESP. We are actually going to tell you. And that is we're going to have Kudus, we're going to have Bowen, and we're going to have Antonio. Not necessarily in that order, by the way, because we have to offer some kind of threat. But I think Moyes will do that. And for that reason, I think we retain half a chance. If he doesn't, then the alternative is he drops Antonio and puts Ward-Prowse in there. Paqueta goes to the left, Ward-Prowse goes in the middle. And I suspect, by the way, that's what he will do. And I think it's just the pathway to defeat, by the way. So
I think he puts Ward-Prowse next to Souček. I think that's what he does. And leaves the front four.
Oh, you think he doesn't play Phillips?
Correct.
Yeah. You may well be right on that. Absolutely.
That's my guess anyway.
Yeah, but I think that might stand half a chance as long as he keeps Paqueta central, because he will drop back into midfield and he will do so. He will win some headers. He will win some tackles. But make no mistake about it. We've got a big problem. And listen, there'll be Newcastle fans watching this. Obviously, not to hear about West Ham, but to hear about their own team. But they'll be looking at it and they'll be thinking about people like Bowen and Kudus and Paqueta. Think, what's this Alvarez person you speak of? Why is he so important? But he is crucial to the way that we play, and particularly we're talking about someone like Zuma in there. The amount of attacks he would stop from getting to Zuma are considerable.
Yeah. Right, we'll talk about West Ham's chances in this game. Before we do, just want to point in the direction of Match Bingo, the sponsors of this video. It's combining with your favourite sport with one of the most traditional games here in the United Kingdom, where you can buy a card for the Newcastle West Ham game. It's £2 per card. You'll get 15 things you need to happen in the game. We've had a lot of winners here on Hammers Chat, including me. I won in the last game. In the Aston Villa game, I won the first line. I'm up. Happy days. You can download the app using the link in the description or the QR code that's currently on your screen. It's free to download and free to sign up. Now, it's £2 per play for the Newcastle West Ham game. However, later on Saturday, Aston Villa take on Wolves, and you can get a free bingo card for that game. You don't have to pay anything. You don't even have to deposit money in order to access it, like alternative apps. You have to deposit money in order to get the benefits. You don't have to deposit money. Also on Friday, because Easter weekend, the EFL is in action on Friday and Monday. So on Friday, there's a free bingos card.
I've already got that one. Mine's already done.
Where you'll be given 15 teams to score a goal. It's as simple as that. Match bingo payout for first line, second line, and full house as well. So do get involved. Links in description. QR codes on the screen. Just put your phone at the QR code, tap it, and they'll download the app for you. So do get downloaded, but please use our links because they know you come from Hammers Chat, and Match Bingo will be happy with us. But good luck to anybody playing, and congratulations to all the winners thus far. I reckon we've had about 15 confirmed winners.
Oh, 100%. But did you see that we actually had a double winner on the cricket? So bingos is football. You can go and run football, and they're also free games, but it also does cricket and darts. And we actually had somebody who had won twice. Same guy won twice on the cricket. So these are just all Hammers Chat subscribers. Lots of people. We have actually lost count. We stopped counting at about 9, but there are loads and loads of people.
I did the darts last week because I wanted to play the darts before I promoted the darts aspect of the app, and there was a free card for every darts match in the Premier League on Thursday, and I was 2 away from the full. No one won the full house, and I was 2 away from the full house.
Yeah.
So I wasn't even watching the darts, but I could see that my board was lighting up as I was winning things. I needed 2 more. I was like, come on, I want the full house, but I didn't win it. But I'm going to get.
I thought they're paying out so much. Are these people making any money?
Not off Hammers Chat. Our subscribers are winning.
We know that our subscribers are definitely got that lucky touch. That's for sure.
Anyway, thank you to everybody that does get involved. Right then, Gonzo, our next 3 fixtures: Newcastle, Spurs, and then Wolves. I mean, this is the. I know it's a bit of like a phrase that football gets overused and stuff, the business end of the season, but it really is 9 games to go for us. Newcastle got a game in hand. We're 4 points ahead of Newcastle at the minute. 9 games to go in the Premier League. The next 3 games are tough. I mean, this feels like crunch time for West Ham if we want European football.
It really does. It really does. It's making me nervous. Just you saying the words is making me nervous. I'm not talking about the game here. That's a different. Am I confident? I'm not confident with this running. I'm really not. I'm crapping myself really on it, particularly without Alvarez there. So, but you're right. We're not in bad not in bad nick. We're not. We're in the quarterfinals of the Europa League. We're in, whatever it was. We're still in the top 7, are we?
We're 7th at the minute
7th.
with 9 games to go, and it's in our hands. European football is in our hands.
It's not a bad place to be. Most of the squad are fit as well, apart from Maxwell Cornet, maybe. And most of them are available. Obviously, Alvarez. And it sounds silly to say this stuff. Is one basically Cornet being unfit doesn't matter. David Moyes wouldn't use him anyway. Yeah. Honestly. Honestly, he could be Maxwell Cornet could be fully fit and named Maxwell Moyes, and David Moyes wouldn't even use him. So we're talking about one player, really.
Might as well call himself Maxwell Zaha.
It's got more chance there. We're talking about one player, Edson Alvarez. It shouldn't make that much of a difference. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe I've over-egged it. Maybe you've over-egged it.
I don't think we have. So.
No, okay.
We've seen us without Alvarez, and we've seen us without Paqueta, and we don't like it.
We don't. It's true.
We don't win games.
It's true.
The one thing I will say is I'm not sure Alvarez would have played this game anyway because of the international duties, being away with Mexico, and when he comes back, he can sometimes be fatigued. And I remember the last one we played Burnley away, and basically I don't think he was keen on playing, or the club didn't want to play him, but Moyes just asked him to do an hour, and then we had to sub him. Now, we were 1-0 down at the time, so it made sense to sub him anyway. However, it was sort of like we were just rinsing the last bit of energy we had. So actually, this game would have probably, especially being 12:30 as well, I think this game would have been a bit of a rough one for Alvarez to play. However, I'd have rather had him available, even if he was just on the bench. So he is a huge loss because there's no obvious alternative. And I think the problem is when you look at our starting 11, only the centre backs have an alternative. The keeper does as well, but it's like you take out Emerson. Creswell's there, but it's a bit maybe at right back Johnson can replace Soufal. You'd be like, yeah, I'm okay with that. But centre midfield, anyone comes out, you're like, the attack, anyone. There's no alternative for Antonio. There's not one for Jared Bowen. There's not one for Kudus. There's not one for Paqueta. And you just everything. The rest of the season just hinges on all of those players remaining fit. We cannot have any injuries. But going into this one, like you said, we've got one. If we can we need a minimum of 4 out of those 3 games, I think, 4 points. 5 obviously means we're unbeaten. 6 would mean we've won 2. That would be fantastic returns, I think, in the next 3 games, but a minimum of 4. So we need to win at least one of these games. And as much as we love being Spurs, I think we'd be better winning this fixture because it keeps Newcastle in, nicks 3 points off Newcastle, and puts us 7 points ahead of them with 8 games to go. They would have a game in hand, but I get a bit biased when it comes to games now because when we've got the game in hand, I'm like, hey, we've still got a game. But when the other team's got a game in hand, I said, yeah, but we've got the points. You're not guaranteed to win that game.
I'm the other way round.
So we're both biased.
We're both cup half full in one way or the other. Yeah.
I'm half full. You're half empty.
I think you might be right. Yeah.
Anyway, how are you feeling ahead of the game? Are you half full or half empty for the game itself?
I'm empty, man. There's some drinks at the bottom of the
glass.
glass.
Gone.
It really has. Yeah, tipping it up and licking the edge of the glass. Quite frankly, looking over at the barman, wondering if there's anything left in the slop tray. I'm not confident in this. I got Alvarez. We've already spoken about, but it's not just Alvarez. That's a hindrance, and then it's St James Park. Funny enough, ironically, we spoke about loopholes and how the Premier League are making sure Newcastle can't progress and spend their money, even though they're not in any threat of going out of business, which is Newcastle are very sustainable. But there's a bit, they're trying to stop Newcastle using any loopholes and so on and so forth. Newcastle actually themselves have got a loophole, and that is the rules now governing away fans mean that if you were to make now a configuration for away fans, you have to put a certain section down near the front, and there's stuff regarding that. We struggle. You get put right up in the gods up at St James's Park, and it's a real struggle to make a noise up there for away fans. So it would be hard anyway at St James Park because there's 55,000 vociferous Geordie fans who are a loud bunch and very, very passionate fans anyway. I think it'd even be hard, even if you had your fans in the correct position for whatever, for 4,000 away fans or whatever it might be, to outsing those. It's going to be tough, but you don't stand a chance when you're put right in the back. They do it, basically, they do what Barcelona do. And I think it becomes very, very hard. It's very much home advantage for them. So I think that with Alvarez means I'm very, very cup half empty, basically.
I'm a little optimistic, actually. If Alvarez is available, I'd be quite confident for this one, Gonzo. I don't know why. I've watched a lot of Newcastle this season from the start up until now. I've watched them a lot of times, and some games they've blown me away, like when they beat PSG at St James's Park. Wow, that's got to be one of my favourite matches this season. Yeah. And I was genuinely I found myself really rooting for quite often. We've discussed this before, but I'm quite neutral when watching things. I like whether it be darts. I don't have a particular darts player I want to win. And when I'm watching football, if it doesn't impact West Ham, I'm very neutral. I just want to see a good game of football. But that night, I found myself really wanting Newcastle to win, actually. And I was pleased to see how they performed. I was jealous.
Yeah.
I was jealous because I thought, well, like, we've had some fantastic European nights, but beating Olympiacos isn't the same as beating PSG. It's not, though, is it? Beating Larnaca is not the same as facing AC Milan.
You do Larnaca a disservice.
There's a big difference between the Conference League and the Champions League competition. Let's put it that way. But anyway, I remember seeing a Newcastle fan not long ago saying we've got 14 points in 14 games, and I remember thinking, I don't recall when I seen that. So I'm just having a look at the form here. And at one point over Christmas and New Year, they lost 6 of 7 games. The only game they didn't lose was a 3-0 win against Fulham. They got beat by Nottingham Forest. They got beat by Luton. Recently, though, not too bad. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games. They've got 2 losses, which was Arsenal and Chelsea.
Close game against Chelsea as well.
Yeah, nothing to be ashamed about. Their wins are a fantastic one away to Aston Villa, away to Nottingham Forest, at home to Wolves, stumping them 3-0. So that's decent teams, then drawn with Bournemouth and Luton. So their form's a little bit better now, but unreliable. I think missing Botman's a huge loss. We're grumbling about Alvarez. They'll be doing the same about Botman, saying what we're going to do is Lascelles coming in next to Shah. We're going to move Dan Burn in and play Lewis Hall at left back. So they've got an issue at centre back. However, they do still have Isak and Bruno, but we've still got Paqueta and Kudus. So I'm optimistic, actually. I think we can win this game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think we can win, but we need to get the centre midfield right. And in some ways, that's not just up to the manager. Like, Moyes can pick whoever, but the players have to perform as well. I don't feel like there's an obvious and correct choice for the middle. Anyway, all said and done, can I get any final words, Gonzo? Plus your score prediction, please.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll get midfield wrong, and I think they'll probably have a little bit too much pace and energy for us. I think we'll show them a little bit too much respect. Botman's out. I don't think we'll try and exploit it. I think we'll sit back far too much, actually. And unfortunately, I can see a 3-1 loss for West Ham.
Well, I get it. I'm not going to argue, say you're deluded. Right? I get why you'd go for that. I'm going to say 1-1. I think I can see it being a tense game, and I'm just a bit. I'm unsure what Moyes is going to do, but this is 1-1 is based on the fact that we start with Bowen, Paqueta, Kudus, and Michael Antonio. If we remove one of those, it would be Antonio, and he was put Bowen up front and started. Then my confidence would wane somewhat drastically. But at the minute, I think we can get something from St James's Park, and a point would be a decent enough result. But I don't know. Because I want 4 in the next 3 games. Getting that win sooner rather than later. These are pivotal. It's pivotal. Yeah. These 3 games are pivotal for us. Anyway, we're going to leave it there. If you've enjoyed this match preview, please do drop a like on it by clicking the thumbs up underneath the video. Helps out the video, helps out the channel, makes us very happy as with the West Ham win at St James's Park. Subscribe if you're new to Hamish Chat. Please do download that Match Bingo app. Links in the description below. Free to download, free to sign up, and there's free to play games, including bingos on Friday. So get involved on Friday, get your bingos card, it's free. And then when the Football League is happening, hopefully you can celebrate certain teams winning, and one of you can win some cash. And let's get 20 confirmed winners on Hamish Chat over the weekend. Self and Gonzo, catch you in a bit.